name of the next segment. Sophia Wanuna, I understand that you have an actuarial scientist turned politician, 29 years old, already speaking to publishers about publishing a memoir.
Yes, I do. Sakaja Arthur Johnson is his name, not a stranger to many. So our guest in studio today for the person of interest, it's good to have you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Karibu sana.
It's great to be here.
So we're going to talk a lot, especially about politics. But before we get to that, let's get to know a little bit about Sakaja Arthur Johnson. So I was reading this article that says you believe or you think of your life getting into politics was when you were 5 years old, thereabout. Talk to us about that.
Oh my.
Now that was very interesting.
Well, I've always been involved one or another in leadership.
Yes.
But the particular story I think you're alluding to is when I was supposed to go to, after nursery school, we used to go to pre-unit, I think pre-primary or something.
Right.
And I didn't want to go because I felt we were doing the same thing and all my friends had transitioned to class 1. So I protested. I held a demo. I had a placard saying no class 1, no school. And I got other kids to join in. And so my dad had to...
So demonstrating where? In school?
At home.
At home?
Yes.
And kids in the neighborhood? Kids in the neighborhood, you got the placards and all?
Yeah. And what happened is then that my dad had to take me to the school. And I had to sign a contract with the headmaster that 1, if I pass the interview, and 2, if I don't go below number 10, then he'll keep me in primary school. So I was always a year behind. But I never went below number 2 since I signed that contract, and it was very tough.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I saved a year of my life. Huh?
No class 1, no school.
Yes.
That was what you'd written on that.
That was probably the beginning, but it was just an indication that
you had it in you.
I stand for what I believe in. And I felt that we're just doing the same thing. And there's no reason. I didn't see that the kids who had gone to class 1 are more intelligent. And so I said I must as well go in.
Yeah. And secondary school, you got into leadership? You were head boy?
Yes. No, I was head boy in primary school.
In primary school?
Yes. Then I joined the great Lenana school.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I'm very proud of that school.
Former Lenana boys watching are like, yeah.
Yes. In fact, this tie and this badge, we wear it on Tuesdays. It's from Lenana school.
So every Tuesday, all of you, wherever you are?
Most of us, yeah. In Lenana, I was in leadership. I got into public speaking. I failed terribly in Form 1 and 2 in public speaking. But in Form 3, I was the best in the country.
Wow. So what changed? Were you practicing a lot? Did you get lessons?
I had a teacher who believed in me. She was called Miss Mganga. I think now she changed her name to Miss Kitala. And she urged me on. So the first time when I failed terribly, because public speaking is not like the solo verses where you have a recital. You're given a topic and 5 minutes to prepare, and you're competing with the best of the best.
Right.
But so in Form 2, I remember I did terribly. And in the next year now we're going to the seniors public speaking, because there's only juniors and seniors. And she insisted you can do this. And so we went for the zonals. I just got through to the provincials. I was, I just got through to the nationals. And the nationals, I remember very clearly. I think we were 16, 2 from each province then. And very intelligent students. And I knew this, I'll just come and talk and be last. But they gave me a topic that I'm very passionate about.
Which is?
The topic was my country, Kenya. And I remember I wrote a few points on a small piece of paper, and I went into the hall, which later became the Senate hall in KCC, where I chair meetings these days, and I just laugh. And I remember I clenched my fist. I started with a quotation by JFK, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, that ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country.
Yes. And
I spoke from my heart. I didn't even open the piece of paper. And I got a standing ovation.
Wow.
So after that, I knew I was done. So I went and changed, going back home, because national music festivals used to happen during the school holidays.
Yes.
So as I'm going away, I'm called back and I'm told, look, the award is going on now. And I was the best in the country. So I was very excited. Felt like I was on top of the world.
Yeah.
Yes.
So now you're in the limelight. Everybody knows Sakaja Johnson, TNA National Chairman. But just 2007, it is said that you were a driver in the Kibaki campaigns. So talk to us about how today I can be driving the next few years this big short.
I think what really happened is I was in student leadership at the University of Nairobi.
Right.
I was in Sonu. But I also had to pay my fees. So I was doing a lot of other things. I was running a cyber in town, cyber cafe. I had a saloon, a laundry, and a kinyozi in campus.
So you're a businessman and a student.
Yes, and that
was how old at the time?
Probably 19, 20.
Wow.
21. Okay. And popcorns and whatnot, and buying hair products, weaves, Revlon, the dryers. And so at that time, I was really interested in politics, national politics. And a certain lady from church called Ndenya Masiuko introduced me to a gentleman who was looking for a PA, and he was a director in the youth campaign. But at first, I started off as driving. So I was driving him for a few weeks. Then I became his PA. Then I kept going up the ladder. I was in charge of
so there was driving at some point?
Yeah, more or less. But it was really nice, because once I'd drop him, I'd go to campus with that big car.
And never be like,
but yes, so you can say that, I was driving and waiting in the parking and cleaning the car.
So how involved were you in the campaigns?
Very involved.
Yeah.
Very
how
involved.
So?
Without going into too much details.
Yeah.
Of course, we had a great team of guys. I helped formulate a lot of the strategy with respect to the youth, getting it through to the young people. Then I was coordinating the universities, the campaign within university students across the country.
Right.
At that time. Then later on, I was assisting with technicalities of the tallying and the election day preparations.
So is it during this time that you met Uhuru Kenyatta?
I met him once at the end of the whole process. At that time, it was very difficult to get through to him because one, he was from the opposition. He was in Kano. He was the leader of opposition.
Right.
So he was not very close into the campaign, but we thought he's a young leader who, was someone we wanted to interact with. We were not able to get through to him at that point. But later on, I remember I was doing a presentation, and he came into the room, and I realized he's a very intelligent man, because he just listened to it. He was not taking notes. He didn't have his PA. And after a few hours, he was on TV speaking about what I just presented. And that's when we met, and, just kept contact after that.
Okay.
Yes.
So we saw the rebirth, or the birth actually, of TNA, which was a different party before.
Yes.
So for you then now, with the president who was planning to run for the presidency, when did that conversation begin, and then to narrow down on you and your party?
It's very interesting, because after Kibaki's campaign,
yes,
and I remember that time I was probably 21, 22. I used to be called upon once in a while by one of the political advisors of the former president, Kibaki, to just give my thoughts on a number of issues.
Yes.
And when I tell her, okay, this is what I think, she'd say, okay, go write a 2-pager, go write a 1-pager, and I'd write. And, sometimes she'd pay me for that, sometimes she would not. And so one day I told her, I want to go study political science, because I think, you have at your disposal all political scientists, professors in this country.
Yes.
And she said the minute I do that would be the minute she'd stop engaging me, because she felt that my knowledge of politics was raw. It was just
It was not out of studying politics.
It was not in the box.
Yeah.
So we went on working. At some point, because I remember I had done a paper for PNU on the Kriegler Commission, and one of the areas we had zeroed in on was the issue of redistribution of constituencies, because we had a situation where we didn't have the equality of the vote. You'd have a constituency, for example, in Bakassi then, having 900,000 people being represented by one MP, and you have a constituency, let's say Lamu East, with 15,000 people, one MP, and it went against the tenets of representation. So she asked me that, okay, yes, we've gotten that as part of the verdict. We're doing a new constitution for the country, can you propose a way? So I started studying the issue of boundary delimitation, and I gave my proposals, which was now adopted by PNU as their position. When Parliamentary Select Committee went to Naivasha in 2009, the biggest bone of contention was on boundaries and the formula, which is now in Article 89.
Yes.
And so ODM had, they agreed to bring in consultants. ODM brought in a man I respect very well, Professor Adwol. He's now the Vice Chancellor of Technical University.
Right.
And PNU brought in this 24-year-old boy who didn't have a suit. They had to go buy me a suit in Naivasha.
Yes.
But so he gave his presentation, I gave mine, and he said, you know what, if you do what this young man has said, we will be home and dry. And so I ended up actually dictating provisions in Article 89 that we have today in the Constitution.
Wow.
And so, after that is when I now started working more closely with the president. Then he was a deputy prime minister. And, we did a lot of things. But beyond that, we became friends. We became really close friends at that time. We had conversations about many things apart from politics.
Yeah.
And so we were able to establish each other's philosophy on a lot of things. And I realized he was actually a leader that I felt would be the right person to take this country to the next level.
So he was in KANU, and attempts to rebrand that and use it as the vehicle to the elections proved not to perhaps be the best idea. Hence you guys coming in.
Even when he was trying to do that, I was, we were working together to some extent, because at that point I was working at Treasury in the office of the Deputy Prime Minister, and it was unsuccessful. I'm trying to do that with KANU, because in as much as the personal issues with certain leaders, the general brand of KANU could not sell because of the connections that people had with an oppressive past with KANU. And at that time we had with a group of young people gotten together, joined the NAPK at that time, National Alliance Party of Kenya, which is still TNA, but it was formed in 2001 actually. It's older than most people think. And so at that point in NAPK, we got into leadership. My predecessor was Nginyo Kariuki, and they saw this group of young people interested in taking it to another level. And so when we got into NAPK, I remember in 2012, we did our NDC then. It was a little known party. We did our National Delegates Conference, and we got elected into office at that point, before it became TNA.
So in 2012?
2012.
Okay.
And so as when now we got Uhuru, and he was part of that, then we did a name change in the new registration. Remember, there was a time when parties were being re-registered. So in the new registration, our convention unanimously agreed to change the name to TNA. And that itself was a process, because we were saying now NAPK, the abbreviation was NAP Kenya. And people would say, oh, these guys just want to take a nap. And so we thought, let's call it NA, National Alliance. And I remember Uhuru saying, NA, not applicable. And so, it was a back and forth. And finally we said, why put the article the National Alliance? Yeah. Not a tribal alliance, not a regional alliance, but the National Alliance. And not just a National Alliance, but the National Alliance.
Yes.
And I remember the process of coming up with, I believe, the launch of the party, which was spectacular. And really it was driven by young people. The average age, I was old in terms of the secretariat and the people behind, the communication and whatnot. Very many young people. And what I used to say, and what I still say, is that we were not the best young people. I don't think I am. But we are a representation of what can happen if you give young people a chance. Yeah,
you mentioned you were elected 2002, because a lot of 2012, a lot of the leadership and whether you've had elections as a party has come into focus. So how long is your term from 2012 to when does it run?
Now, according to the constitution of the party, it's a 5-year term. And that was done as NAPK. And there's no party that exists without having elected officials. In fact, when you see other parties doing elections, it's not because they feel like or they just like elections. It's because they have constitutions that say, and you're the registrar of political parties, who's very clear. on when a party is supposed to hold, its elections.
Right.
Of course, we have had people saying that they want, certain elections. Sometimes they say they don't want it. So it really should not be an emotion. Kenyans can't decide to go next year and elect a president again. We have a constitution that, that guides that. So we did it in 2012. Ideally, it's a 5-year term, but based on political dynamics, you can also be able to bring it earlier or move it further, based on what is in the best interest of the membership.
Okay. One of the things TNA says about itself that it was founded with a vision to offer a fresh outlook to the role political parties play in serving the people of Kenya. We created a party that will be based not on ethnicity or personality, but on ideas. But by the fact that you had to get Uhuru Kenyatta to be in this, if he was not part of TNA, it would not be the TNA. We would not know of it, just as we did not know of NPK. Yeah, before. It is because of the personality, the person, the gravitas he holds as a politician that he is. So how, as TNA then now, have you been able to distance yourself from the same? Because even in the last general elections, from the strongholds that is central Kenya and others, if you're with TNA, you're assured of victory. So you've not been able to run away from that. You've just joined the bandwagon of political parties in Kenya as they've been.
I don't know how many chairs of political parties you've interviewed or come to KTN. We have 56 parties. But even the media focuses on very few. And you see, there is no other way that political parties can get known. In Kenya, we've had a culture where politics revolves around individuals, not around ideologies and theories. And you see, we have to work with the system as it exists. And really that's how it is. People coalesce around leadership. Political parties are not NGOs. Political parties are not religious organizations. They're about leadership. And unless there is strong charismatic leadership with a vision at the helm of it, you will find that out of the 56 political parties we have today, Kenyans are no less than 10. And that is true as to, even at the beginning, at the outset of the party. What we have done is, because what we're clear about is our objective. And we see that our objective is being achieved better. All political parties ultimately want to be in power. Political parties don't exist for anything else but to form political, to get into political office, to implement their manifesto. And that is what we are doing. We believe in a party, and if you look at the officials, the range of officials and the areas that we've really tried to get into, that we want to maintain a national outlook. It is true that all political parties have certain strongholds over an ethnic basis. That is true of all parties. But I believe that,
because you are coming in saying you want to be the difference. That is true of all parties. Yeah. But why haven't we seen you rise above that? Why isn't TNA, forging a different path? Because I think you've just been swallowed into
we forged a different path. In many respects. Forging a different path does not mean that if my party is popular in a certain area, I should be upset and should want it to be unpopular. Forging a different path does not mean that we, discriminate against any part of this country. Our party has the highest number of offices in this country. We're in at least 35 counties as we speak right now, with fully functional offices and coordinators and officials. TNA has the highest membership in the history of Kenya, of all political parties. As of now, according to the Registrar of Political Parties, we have 3 million members, 2.5 to 3 million members. According to my records in the party, and there are certain discrepancies always, because I remember we sold 6.5 million cards during the election. We're also doing junior membership, something other parties have never done. We have digital registration on your mobile phone.
Okay.
If anybody dials a certain number, I will not say it here because of free advertising, but if you dial on your phone, you become a member of the party. And we're doing things differently. We're one party, of all the political parties that are there in the country today, TNA is the one party that you've never heard of issue of rebels or people being threatened in the party. We're open to democracy. When people speak against the chair...
the president did tell the governors the other day to either toe the line or get out.
No. Actually, if you remember clearly, TNA is the only party that sat down with its governors, senators.
But the president didn't say that. He threatened the members pretty much. As you say, that doesn't happen. It does happen.
No, not directly, because we spoke to them. We reasoned. I called my 8 governors. I called all my senators, all my members of parliament, and representatives of MCA caucus. We had a discussion. I told them what you guys want to do can be done through other means. We can do it through Parliament.
Many have asked,
and they willingly decided to drop their bid for Okwa Kenya.
Many have asked, you've talked about the representation you have and the many numbers in terms of reach countrywide when you conducted the grassroots elections, because the initial party did not have that national appeal. So when TNA came into place in terms of this growth in numbers you're talking about and representation, when did those elections happen?
You see the success of a party, first of all, and I don't know why, because as I was saying earlier, some parties focus so much on micro and forget macro, looking outside. The success of a political party is not in the number of internal elections it does, but in how it achieves its objective. One, to get into power, and we've been greatly successful in that. NPK also had officials across the country, and in the run-up to the election, in every county where we were operating, we actually got county leadership elected by the TNA caucuses at that point. Those people who are vying for MCA, for governor, for MP, for senator came together and we did the election at that point. We will soon again have branch grassroots elections before we do the national elections, so that we go deeper, because we want to go down to the polling station level. But for me, that is not the end. That is a means to the end. That is a means of creating the structures and institutionalizing a political party. For me, that is not really the end of it all.
Let's talk about last year's elections. How much approximately did you spend on the elections, if you can tell us?
I can't estimate a cost. The elections are very expensive.
Yes, they are.
And
roughly on the campaigns.
You know, the party didn't run the entire campaign. Most campaigns are formed in a way that you have a campaign secretariat that does certain things. Then you have the party campaign. Now, the party campaign was campaigning for its candidates mainly, from the grassroots level to the national level, and the secretariat was dealing mainly also with the presidential election. So it's difficult for me to get a clear figure. But I think
from the party.
Well, I have to look for an audit in terms of how much the party spent. But I must say it was very expensive.
How did you raise the money?
The first way we raised money is through selling cards. I told you we sold 6.5 million cards at 25 shillings. You can do the math. Of course, we also had well-wishers. Luckily now we have regulations, and even then, as to the extent to which a party can get funding from individuals. An individual cannot fund a party to more than 5% of the entire amount. People have always assumed that His Excellency the President, then as DPM, wholly funded the party, and really that's not even allowed within the law. So that was not possible. But we had a lot of well-wishers, especially from the time of the launch. You'd find somebody coming and say, I'll donate the tent. And actually, one of the big event planners that has, I will not again market for him, gave us a tent. Others said, we'll do your sound system, we'll do your whatnot. Because we were rallying people around a belief. And there's nothing more important than people owning a political party in terms of what they believe in. Till today, we have members who just come and say, how can I help in my county? We have business people who come and say, we want to be part of the TNA Business Forum, we want to be part of what you're doing in the party. How can we chip in? And we're setting up the TNA Foundation, which can also do things that the party cannot do. We want to go deeper beyond just the politics, to look at social impact things. We talk about bursary systems, talk about welfare systems for our members. We want to do beyond what a party has traditionally been doing.
All right, and many of those who worked with you, we had reports then after the elections that claimed they had not been paid. There were accounts that apparently some money had been stolen that had been raised during the campaigns. What do you say to these people who have been disgruntled for a very long time, and that money was misappropriated that was raised to support the candidate?
I mean, we also had such allegations, and as I've said clearly, there are two centers. There's a party and there's a campaign.
Why are there two centers?
That's how campaigns are run. Even Barack Obama's campaign, there was a Democratic Party.
But in your case, the two centers appeared not to know what the other is doing.
No, that's not true. We are very clear. Because you must...
Because even when the money was lost, the other was saying, no, that was, it's the other team or campaign team that was...
Which money was lost?
The alleged
It's allegations and audits were done. You see, political parties are public institutions. Public institutions are audited by the Auditor General. Now, if you have an Auditor General's report stating that certain amounts of money were lost, then that is a factual statement. Politically, I mean, in political parties, if somebody wants to discredit a political party official, that's the easiest thing to say. You'll get coverage. Sophia Waruna will talk about it in the morning like it's gospel truth. And you get mileage about it. But I mean, those are simply allegations. And I remember I actually, early in the year, last year when those things came up, I said, I mean, if anybody has these allegations, bring them to me, because I exercise overall oversight over the entire party. I'm not a signatory to those accounts. So I said, all the people who are involved in that process should come, those with allegations should come, the auditors should come, and we found nothing out of that.
Mohammed from Isiolo is calling us. Mohammed, good morning. Mohammed?
Morning, Safia. How are you?
Good. Thanks for calling. Go ahead with your contribution. Hello? Do you still have Mohammed?
Yes, madam.
Go ahead.
Yes. I wanted to congratulate and commend Mr. Sakaja for the job well done at a young age. One thing I wanted to make a contribution is that as the chairman of TNA and the ruling coalition, there are so many wastages and misappropriation of funds at the counties. I'd like him as an MP to enact a bill that is going to bring efficiency monitoring in the counties through an efficiency monitoring unit, which shall be able to be answerable only to the Director General to control the wastages in the counties. Two, I'd like them to consider those people who are above 35 years and less than 40, because we've been talking about the youth, but there are people who are losing youth. Yesterday I was youth, today I'm not a youth. And the third thing is that as a youth and as a leader of government who is close to His Excellency the President, please bring services closer to the people according to Article 174, Part F. There are some counties in this republic where services like NSSF, you go from Moyale to like Meru, or you move from one place to another. Thank you for that, and I suppose that you will surmount the problems that are facing Kenya. You are working very good, and it's my hope that the members of TNA will continue keeping you there, because the problem in Kenya is that somebody can come with very good ideas, and at the end of the day, some people will feel that this party is ours, and this is the time we've done with this one, and then the next person to bring on.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, Mohammed.
Thank you, Mohammed.
Thank you, and you'll respond to that shortly. We have another call online.
Get a pen, a paper.
Hello? Sylvanus?
Yes, this is Silvana.
Yes, go ahead briefly, your contribution.
I just wanted to ask Sakaja one question, to be categorical on the registrations that he's claiming that TNA has more than 3 million and has 3 million members. The Sakaja should know that TNA is registering Kenyans without their acknowledgement. So he has to be categorical and stop lying on a national TV. He has to come out clear.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, Asante. Let's begin with Mohammed's comments.
I'd like to thank Mohammed for his call. He's a very thoughtful person. You can tell he's really thinking about these issues. And I hope he's a member of the party. If he's not Mohammed, just dial *245# on your phone, and then you can become a member. I think he has good ideas. We've seen issues of pilferage of funds or public malfeasance in the county level. And you see, devolution is based on the principle of subsidiarity. The principle of subsidiarity is that a service is best offered at the lowest level compatible with the benefit area of that service. So devolution was really about bringing services closer to the people and giving them decision making. I don't know how many Kenyans have been involved in the budget making process, for example, in the counties.
Right.
I know, for example, in Nairobi, very few have, because I'm a Nairobian. And in many counties, very few people feel that there's an engagement. And that's something that really must be looked at, because we thought that a one-size-fits-all approach doesn't work in this country. So instead of a one-size-fits-all approach in the budget, let's have counties where people can actually prioritize. Now the priorities in Mandera are different from the priorities in Bungoma.
And by the way, speaking of Mandera, allow me to break this story that we're getting reports unconfirmed, of course, are waiting for confirmation that there has been 36 people are feared dead in a quarry in Kome, that's 15 kilometers from Mandera. Red Cross has tweeted about it. Of course, as we get more details on the same, we will continue to bring you up to speed with it. A Mandera attack, 36 people feared dead in a quarry in Kome, 15 kilometers from Mandera. Security personnel and Red Cross teams are on the ground. More details as we get them, we will definitely update you on the same. Your thoughts on this story? Of course, you don't have too many details on the same. Yeah.
Well, I really would like to know what exactly has happened, because it sounds tragic.
That is serious.
And
that's 6 people.
Is it a quarry? Meaning a quarry collapse, or is it an attack?
That's what, yeah, because the hashtag Kenya Red Cross has used is Mandera attack, so it sounds like an attack. Then again, dead in a quarry, so it's not very clear.
I think when it comes to clearly, we should be able to talk about that.
Okay.
But I think later on, generally, I can talk about security.
Yes, yes, we'll get to that.
Opinions on that.
Right.
So we're responding first to Mohammed's call, and I think he's right on the money. I'd like to ask him to send me some of the suggestions online, on my Twitter account, or to email me on sakaja@sakaja.co.ke, and I can be able to engage him further in that. Secondly, the next person was saying that there's fraudulent registration. We've had those claims time and time again. We always know that politically opponents are not happy when they keep stating and pounding their chest that they're the biggest party yet have nothing to show for it. We have those records within the registrar. We are not the custodian of registration. We're not the custodian of those records. We register members willingly. But of course, if I want to discredit you, I can also register myself in your party, then say you registered me fraudulently. So if anybody feels that they were fraudulently registered, we've also asked them that it's possible to get yourself off the register. Even our members, the registration is a voluntary thing, it's not mandatory.
So I'm getting an update here that at least those 36 people killed is by gunmen in a quarry in Koromais. So let's get into this now. Of course, as we continue to get more details, my producer just keeping me up to speed with the same. This just coming days after we had the other attack, Sakaja, in a country that in terms of confidence levels on how the government and the security organs are managing security is wanting.
It's a terrible situation. I've said time and time again that indeed we have a problem. It is sad, when Kenyans are afraid, or even going home, when Kenyans are afraid of being in social places, when Kenyans are afraid of certain places in the country, we begin to ask ourselves very difficult questions. What is going wrong? I've said even before that us as political leaders, instead of also lamenting, we should be the first to offer solutions. And I've invited members even from the opposition, and we'll be doing this in Parliament, that we want to actually come together and do an extensive audit, an intensive one, on the systems, because I believe there are strong systemic and institutional failures. There's a man at the top, the IG and the CS and whatnot, but there's a commander down there in Mandera, there's an AP commander, and we have certain problems within our constitutional framework. For example, you have for a county commissioner who's supposed to be in charge of the administration in a county cannot direct the police, cannot direct the AP, because the constitution makes them independent. At the county level, you have the head of the AP and the head of the police who are at the same level and don't answer to each other, and you have lack of coordination. We have a problem with interagency coordination in this country and emergency response. The military, the GSU, the police, the APs cannot even connect.
Granted, Chairman, those challenges are numerous, there are many, and some of these will be long-term. They must be addressed. But in the meantime, do people keep dying? Because this reminds me of Mpeketoni. After the first attack, everybody flew there, the CS, all KDF were deployed, and the following night was another attack. Same now here. A few days after the attack last Saturday, but one, then we have another, and yet there were measures going into place to ensure this security situation is put in place.
What that tells you is that there's no cosmetic solution that will be done instantly. Just add water and it's done. You see, we're facing two categories of crime in this country. There's a threat from terror, and terror is a global, it's really a global challenge. And we must have the disposition that we're actually in a state of war with Al-Shabaab. That is very different from the crime in the streets. from the crime, the burglars and whatnot. We must be able to form ourselves to be in the right, formation or structure to deal with terror on its own. There's serious weaknesses within our laws to even deal with the terror. You get people...
And also in the leadership, they appear to be confused.
Which leadership?
The management of security organs. They, from giving inconsistent statements. Secondly, from the president the other day coming out and really, instead of reassuring the country, making a bad situation even worse. So granted all those issues you bring about the global nature of this, counter-terrorism efforts around the world, but Kenyans elected a president and he has these people in power.
There are a lot of things that are being done to sort this out by the president.
What is being done?
But what I'm saying, and that's in his place to give that information. But what I'm saying is this. Even today, if you remove Lenku and Kimayo, there is no guarantee that you'll have security tomorrow. You'd rather sort out the whole problem, then also deal with the leadership and the problem. If people have challenges that you've arrested somebody with 20 or 1,000 pounds of explosives, but in 2 days he's released by a court and he goes back to society, how do you deal with that? We need to look at our anti-terrorism laws in this country. Some offenses cannot be bailable in this country. But you see, because of liberty, we've said no, the freedoms of that person, and that's the person who is going to kill Kenyans. Yeah? We must look at that as well, because many of these people are being granted bail day in and day out. They're going out there. Number two, the intelligence thing is not something to gloss over. In Mandera, if the NIS or the intelligence have that information, they don't have to wait for it to go to Nairobi for it to be responded to and acted upon. They must be able to, right there and then, take action through the coordination with other security organs. So my take is this. Yes, it's a challenge. I am accepting, and I've said it. I am not, I know some people have said some people within Jubilee are trying to say there's no problem. I'm saying, and I'm the first to say, there's a problem with security, but it does not need the cosmetic solutions. We need a very firm hand in the ministry. We need a firm hand at the IG's level, very clear, decisive steps, but they will not do it in an isolated manner. We as parliamentarians must come in and audit the structure and formation of our security forces. There are very many ambitious proposals, or rather what we have now within our constitution, that just cannot work. Right. Finally, we must look, as a matter of priority, at the welfare of those people whom we have mandated and given, the positions and the work to protect our lives. We must look at their dignity. You cannot have a police officer who earns 18,000 shillings, cannot even afford to, when he's going out to the field to get toothpaste, he has to take what is left in the house and expect that person to protect your life. So
you're saying to the people in Mandera right now who have been in the past few days wanting to be brought back home, to be flown back, some have been camped at the military barracks, you're telling them that until Parliament figures this out in laws and all this, you're on your own. In the meantime, there's nothing that can be done.
No, you're the one who's telling them that. What I'm telling them is first that we commiserate with the loss they're having. We feel that loss. We know. I have personally been in many of these families, even of the slain officers in Kapedo. What I'm saying is, look, even as government is doing, what it can do, we as leaders must also come in and not bring in, because I've seen a lot of...
That's the thing. People are not seeing what government is doing. What is it doing right now? Because
then I will let government say what they're doing, because I'm not a minister.
You're an insider.
I'm saying what I'm doing as a parliamentarian and as a legislator. Now, the interior CS can say what he's doing as government. But
do you feel they have done enough to communicate to Kenyans what they're doing as a Kenyan as well? You say you're not a cabinet secretary, you're not in that particular seat, but do you feel as a Kenyan sitting back and looking in terms of what they're doing now to ensure my security now, tonight, today, in Mandera, in Kapedo, wherever it is?
Security is not about communication. Because
if they tell us, covered well?
If they tell us what they're doing, Al-Shabaab is also watching. What Kenyans want to see is action, not rhetoric. And that is what must be taken.
Which has not.
It has taken too long, and we are also concerned about that. But it's not about, you will not solve terrorism by shouting at the terrorists, or by strong speeches, or by press statements. You will solve them by decisive action on the ground, decisive action in securing our borders, in dealing with corruption, dealing with the issues I'm talking about, which might seem that they're very, fickle issues, but they're the core issues. If you look at the US, for example, and look at the legal framework around insecurity, look at the Homeland Security Act. That is one of the most thorough pieces of legislation I have gone through, and I've studied it fully. I'm telling you, if we put in some of those things in place, that we have border police in terms of the immigration in this country, that we have the surveillance equipment, because even if each and every policeman in Kenya who held hands and stood around the border, they would not cover the whole place. And the border of this country is not a gate that everybody passes through. But you must engage now technology and engage equipment. But we're saying with the amount of money that we're giving to the Ministry of Interior, we must see also a return on that. Kenyans must see, Kenyans demand that. The first objective of a government is to secure its people, and I agree with that.
All right, Chairman, we'll take a break on that note and come back and interrogate some of the things you promised Kenyans as TNA in your manifesto in terms of security. You said you'll revolutionize security, border security. You've mentioned that. We've not seen much of the same. Still, our borders continue to be continue to be porous, and it's a huge threat for the country. So we take a short break on that note. We'll continue updating you on the situation that's developing. We understand 36 people killed in another attack in Mandera. The details coming up and more from the National Chairman, TNA, Johnson Sakaja.